where this is family time and no work and no anything. You can't be so desperate for a sale or a client in the beginning that you forego, the things that really matter.
What is up, friends? Rob Sevilla here, the Medicare Minister, and I'm back with a brand new Spitting Fire Leadership Podcast interview for all of you today. And I am with a power couple, Mr. Steve and Mrs. Amy Knirsch. And will you guys say what's up to everybody real quickly?
What's up out there, everybody?
Listen, I know they're going to spit some serious fire. I met them in Springfield, Missouri last week, and I am so excited that they are on the podcast today. But before we dive into that, or in the South, they like to say, before we get into the meat and taters, is how they say it here in North Mississippi, where I live, I want to remind you of why I do this, why I interview leaders like the Knirsches. And that's because I have a mantra that I live by, and that is we were created on purpose, for a purpose. And let me just challenge you. Isn't it about time that you start living on purpose in 2022? And I believe that God has put a leader inside of all of you. And I pray that something we say today deeply, divinely inspires you to be the leader that he's called you to be. So guys, I'm so excited that you guys are on. I enjoyed the presentation last week in Springfield. And what I always like to do in the very beginning, and I don't care who starts, Amy, Steve, whoever wants to go first, will you guys just give us a little bit of your individual stories and a little bit of the past, maybe some of that transition time up into what you guys are doing today?
Absolutely. Amy,
Perfect.
you start first.
Okay, sure. So I got into the health insurance space when I found myself as a single mama with 3 kids who wanted to eat more than once a day for some reason. They weren't very compliant with me on that. Right. So I had to figure it out pretty quick. I had a $10,000 cash benefit and a life insurance policy that I cashed out to kind of start life over again. Wow. And it doesn't take a real math genius to figure out that that's not going to last very long. Right. I have a master's degree in health and wellness. Thought I'd be able to pick up a job real quick like that, but it wasn't so. So health insurance came across my lap, literally laughed out loud. Like, there's no little kid in career classes like, I want to be a health insurance agent when I grow up. Sure. Said no one ever, really, except our kids now. So started in this industry, built a book of business under 65. Met Steve throughout the industry, and once God brought us together, hasn't really been able to separate, and we've built the business up through a lot of trials. We lost 9 of our closest family members in about 7 years, my health and a lot of other things. So there was a lot of trials, right? But we were blessed to have a career that we could take time to spend with loved ones that are dying, sure. Doing things that really matter and building our business still along the side of that. So had God showed me back then the plans that he had for me now, I'd have been like, there's no way this mama can do all that. But I feel like he really just grows you along into the person that he wants you to be and needs you to be to step into the next scary phase, right? To where then he just continues to grow and bless us. And we're just actually been really, I don't know if you say shocked, I don't know if he's shocked at what God does, sometimes, but, sure. Yeah. But it's been amazing. So our real passion is just helping other people. It started with helping clients, helping agents, but there was a period of time there that I went through kind of a fear of success, which sounds really weird. But I align success sometimes with arrogancy. Success and money breeds arrogancy a lot of times. And I really didn't want any part of that. And in prayer time, God was like, but Amy, just think of all the people that we can help with all the extra. And I was like, holy smokes. All right, I'm in. I'm in.
Yeah, I like
it. Do whatever you want to do. This is yours. You blow it up, shut it down, show us if we need more agents, clients, whatever. And literally, our business grew over 100% for 3 years in a row.
Wow.
From that conversation with the Lord.
Wow.
So,
listen, yep. I'm looking for the offering plate and the altar call. That was some serious spit and fire and preaching there. And Steve, before we jump into your story, Amy, can I just touch on a couple of nuggets that I believe you put in there real quickly? I mean, you really bet on yourself when you talked about that benefit, cashing out that benefit. What was it in you that you go, you know what, I got to make this happen? Can you just talk about that real quickly?
Yeah, of course. I mean, for me, it was my 3 kids, right? And I have a big why. And I have to figure this out. There are no other options. And I have to do the hard stuff. And clearly I didn't have the money, right? So I had to do all the free stuff, the stuff you don't want to do necessarily,
Yeah.
calling old age leads, walking and talking into
Fun
businesses,
stuff. Yeah.
joining the chamber and paying my monthly thing because that's all I could afford, and going to as many of those things as I could. Just, yeah, I think when you cut off all the other options and you really recognize what's been placed in front of you, God can provide ways, but we have to take action and do our part.
Yeah.
He's not just going to let it rain from the sky. So it was just like, all right, God, this is what you got. Like, I don't really know about health insurance, but I know a deductible. I don't really know, but I'm going to find the people that are successful. I'm going to sit at their feet. I'm going to learn and just emulate that. We always talk about a recipe. If somebody has a good recipe and you go for, Memorial Day or whatever it is, you take that recipe and you make it exactly the same. And so I just did that, replicated those people, and away we went. So.
Yeah. And I want to stop there real quickly and just look into the camera, because some of you, your why is not deep enough, right? I believe your why has to be so deep that when really you meditate on it, it just really makes you emotional, right? For Amy, it was her kids. For me, it's my family as well, right? That somebody's got to show up every day and make this thing happen. And so I'm glad you brought that out. Second thing, you talked about trials. I think sometimes we live in a culture that wants immunity to trials, immunity adversity. I call it getting a get out of jail free card. But the reality is God never promises that to Christian or non-Christian alike, but rather that he promises us to be with us through those trials. And that I believe that God does his best work in us through the hard times. Can you talk about that just real quickly, what that means to you?
Yeah, for sure. I mean, just to be honest and transparent, there are times when it was death and this and that. And I'm like, my word, can you please just give me a break? I'm like a little bit frustrated with you because, the world's watching, people are dying. You have the opportunity to save their life. And wow, what a great thing that would be. But, but God has bigger and better plans. And, I think it's just as people, we have to realize that, he created us with lots of different emotions, and it's okay to feel those emotions and to talk to him. I remember going on a run one time. I'm like, I'm just really mad at you. I'm mad at you for letting my brother die. But I felt this peace that, his reason and his why was bigger than mine. And when I went to his funeral, the whole gymnasium was packed full of testimonials about people coming back to the Lord because of watching his story. So those trials all have a meaning and a purpose, and they're growing us. And I think the best thing I can say is just stay close with God, that your foundation is built on him. I think you talked about it last week, finding your identity in who you are through him, who he says you are, and not that I am who I am because I'm a really great insurance producer, or I'm a really great this or that. All those things can be taken away, but God's not going anywhere. And so it's just sticking tight to him and really literally every day, just laying those trials at his feet, laying the business at his feet and say, this is my plan today, but whatever you have for me, you bring it to me and I'll have peace that this is what you have,
Yeah. No, I love that. And I totally agree. I tell people all the time, just bring all your crap, all your mess, all your questions, all your anger, all your stuff to God, and he can handle it, right?
Yeah.
He can handle it. And I love that transparency, because I believe more Christians need to preach that God can handle our transparency. Last thing real quickly, and then we'll hear some of Steve's initial story here. Fear of success. I love that. Will you expound on a little bit more? Because I think in the church, as a former pastor and church planner, someone who did ministry for over 20 years, I don't know if they necessarily preach it from the pulpit, but there's this very prevalent thought that if you're, the more broke you are, the more holy you are, so to speak. Can
Yeah.
you talk about that in regards to the fear of success and just expound on that for a few minutes?
Yeah, for sure. I mean, my goal when I started, my expenses were here, my income was way down here. I was just
Sure.
trying to get to here and maybe a little here. So when I got there, I just kind of put the brakes on a little bit with the business because for what I already said, being afraid of arrogancy, it can be a slippery slope. And I want my life and my business to be a ministry. And I felt like if anyone would see me in an arrogant way, that would detract from the Lord. And so that was why I just kind of status quo for a while. And that's really when, like I said, it literally was in a prayer time with the Lord one day. And, he vividly said, but just think of what we can do with the extra, all the people we can help. And I'm like, wow, that's a whole different mindset, right?
Sure.
So now the thought of my business being my ministry, like, holy cow, like if we continue to take the step each day that the Lord has and accept all the blessings, stay our feet planted firmly on his foundation, stay in the word and follow those business principles that he has, like, wow, the amount of not just money, but money and time that we can then turn and give to so many people. I mean, it's
Sure.
just like that. That's what gets me excited now to get out of bed and go to work and, do the fun business of health, of insurance,
Yeah, one of the guys that I follow on the internet, and I've been following for about a year, is a guy named Myron Golden. I briefly mentioned him last week, and he says it this way, that sales and money is a good thing because it's a God thing.
Yeah.
And I think a lot of people, they don't understand that it's being seduced by money.
Mhm.
It's if you make sales your identity more than just being a child of the Most High King, your identity, that's where it begins to get perverted. And I totally agree. I'm like, God bless me with more so I can be a bigger blessing
Right.
to others. And I'm glad that you guys have that same mindset as well. So Steve, just a little bit of the background, transition time up to what you're doing today.
Yeah. So I spent a lot of years out of college in the golf business. I was a golf professional for 10 years, and then I sold golf equipment wholesale for another 8 years. And that was my first taste of being self-employed and being an entrepreneur, which was not something that I grew up with in my family. My dad was career Air Force. He worked as a pilot for American Airlines. And so there was no entrepreneurship. My mom worked some jobs like at a Hallmark store and, some things like that. And so it was not really like, there was no entrepreneurship in my family at all. Everybody, you worked, you traded time for money, and that's how they made their living. So when I got into the golf business and I saw these guys coming into the golf shop, and I'm like, man, these guys are having fun. They're having fun.
Yeah.
They're always happy. They're talking to guys that they like to talk to. They're playing golf. I'm like, I want to do that. I want to set my own schedule. I want to do my own thing. And so I just bugged a startup company every week until I got the job. And so I had the territory in Southern California and Los Angeles, which is the biggest territory in the country, really. And so I got this job and I just took off from there. Now, in 2008, the economy took a dive. And during that time, people stopped playing leisure sports. They stopped buying golf equipment and other leisure sports equipment. And so at that point, I was on a crossroads. I'm like, okay, I can wait this out and be better off for it, or I can go find something else to do. And I started thinking of those 60-year-old guys schlepping golf bags into the golf shops.
Mhm.
And I'm like, I don't want to be that guy.
Mhm.
So I decided that I was going to get my insurance license. And that road led me to the office that Amy was working out of. And we met at that office. We had a recruiter as a manager, not really a trainer as a manager. So we all had to figure it out.
Right.
And so we all collaborated in the office and figured it out. What was our avenue? What avenue were we going to try to build this business upon? And so it was kind of a leap of faith to just pick up and move and go to, come to Kansas City and start this new career. But I just loaded up all my stuff and I took off, and So I got here, met Amy, we started this business, and like she said, it was on and off the gas for, the startup of our business was really through, death and trials and whatever. It was just a lot of on the gas, off the gas.
Sure.
We both feel like we might be down the road further had those things not happened, but I think we're also better off for going through all those things as well. So that's my story. It's plain and simple. I've been in the golf business half my life, and then, now we're almost half my career into the insurance industry. So
let me ask you something. As a golf pro and doing golf sales, was there something from the sport of golf, like a principle maybe that carried over into your business now? Is there something that you go, these two had parallel? I always like to ask that because it's amazing to me how many people take something from their former life, if you will,
yeah.
and it's carried over to the success they've had today. Is anything
Well,
rise to the top?
Yeah, golf is an individual sport, and you rely on yourself to achieve a score or a goal, right?
You're
And
right.
so kind of like we're doing now, it's if I'm an individual producer, then I know what that's like. I know what it's like on the golf course to produce a score, and I know what it's like to produce in the insurance industry. And so you have to you have to have a certain knowledge base. You have to, know what you're doing and how you're going to do it. And then you need to go about that process, and you have to practice. And so the practice and then the playing leads to the lower scores or the bigger sales or the multiple sales, or the package sales.
Sure.
And so you learn those things over time. And then once you learn those and you implement them, then you just repeat. And so that's, I think in golf, it's just the individual side of things. There's no one else to rely on but yourself.
Sure. And I love what you said because, many of us are indoctrinated to trade the time for money instead of the opposite. What do you think the biggest breakthrough is that somebody needs to have to reverse that? Can you speak into that just for a second?
Yeah, it's really hard, especially if you're coming from a career where you have a salary and benefits, and you go one day you quit and you go right to zero, and you have to build it back up again. As an independent broker, you have to build that all back up again. And so you have to see the bigger picture, or at least have the fortitude to make it through that process, because it's not easy. It's really tough. And, like our story, we didn't have a marketing budget. We didn't have $1. We didn't have anything to move forward on, right? I didn't have any money. She didn't have any money. We had Amy's 3 kids, and we had to figure this thing out, so it was literally one policy at a time to get where we're at. And so that's like the tough road. People
Sure.
come in and they're like, hey, where are my leads? Where's my CRM system? And how do I make sales? And where's my
Right.
money? And you got to put in the work, and you got to do your due diligence, and you have to put it in. So, yeah, I don't know. Did I answer the question?
Yeah. Yeah.
I
I
got a
think
little
people
off there.
just get addicted to the guarantee and they settle. I believe as a Christian that part of that life abundantly in John 10:10, if I can speak a little scripture needs here, is the life abundantly obviously is eternal life. That's the context. But I believe here on this earth that we tend to sacrifice just existing in life, or excuse me, living the life abundantly on the altar of just existing
Right.
life.
Yeah.
Right.
On the business side of that, Cody said it this week, that there's a floor in the insurance industry, but there's no ceiling. Right. So
There's
there's
a floor of expenses, but no ceiling on the income.
yeah.
Right.
So that's where if you take somebody from a salary position, they work up to that salary, and then they can go beyond that to wherever they want to go, as high as they want to go. And for some people, they want to make 6 figures, they can make 6 figures. They want to make multiple, they can do that. They want to make 7, they can do that too. So it's really how much effort they're going to put into it, and where they see their vision, which also evolves, right? Your vision in the beginning might be putting food on the table, and then that turns into, how do I make 6 figures and more? So
yeah, checking that bank account every day, make sure that commission's coming in one policy at a time. I know
Yeah.
we've been there and done that, so
yeah,
I totally get it. So to transition, let me ask you this, and we'll start with Amy and then Steve if you want to bring in. as a couple, maybe there's somebody watching today, and we have people that watch in different spaces, a lot of insurance because we're in the insurance space,
Mhm.
but just for people that are wanting to bet on themselves, they've made that decision. What are some key tips, Amy, that you would give to working together as a couple that have helped you guys be that on the same team, so to speak, and have the success that you've had?
Perfect. Yeah. I mean, working together is no joke. I mean, it can be hard, right? And
Sure.
especially if you're in the same space all the time, you're like,
Sure.
you need to go back to your office for a while.
Right.
But
Right.
I think
Or when you come home, when does work stop?
yeah.
Yeah.
So I think the things that we've learned that work really well and as working with as a couple, one is that we just sat down and made a list of all the duties in the business. Then we looked at how God created each of us individually. What characteristics do each of us have that are different? Where are our strong points? And where can we gravitate to those roles and take those up? And sometimes it is like, I think I'm pretty good at that. And like, Steve's like, yeah, you're pretty good, but like, I think that not as good. So, it's just being real and being able to be honest with one another and with yourself and taking those roles and really owning them and encouraging the other person to do theirs as well. And then, hiring an assistant or somebody to do the stuff that we're both really trash at, and
Right.
so I think that is a big thing. And then really just teaming up as a team at home and at work and with the family and whatever. When Steve first came in our life, I was being mom, I was producing, I was running around, I was cooking, I was cleaning, I was whatever. And he's like, holy smokes, like I'll go to the store and I'll
Sure.
make the dinner and I'll do some of this stuff so you can spend some more time
Sure.
with your kids and keep rolling in the business. And then when we really teamed up in our business and got married, we decided that like Steve's good at leading and teaching. Love thus his golf career.
Mhm.
So he took on the role of training agents and things like that, where I was still producing. So it's really, I think those things, and then really just having your faith together and coming to the Lord about what it is that he wants done with the business, how he wants you to work together, what other things that he wants you to explore, and just that you're in prayer together and that you're asking for his leading and that you're trusting him. And then, you can trust one another then with what each role we're doing, so when Steve says that, this is his thing, then I can trust that he's taking care of that. And I can be over here doing this piece. I think that's,
Mhm.
those are a couple things that we've really learned along the way.
Sure. What about for you, Steve? Like, what are some key takeaways or key things that you think, hey, if somebody's watching this today and they want to work together as a couple? I know Amy's talking to my wife and I work together, and like you say, it can get a little tough sometimes, and you got to be humble and give a lot of grace. What are some key tips or advice that you would give to somebody watching today?
I would say just exercise patience, be patient with each other. There's going to be good times, there's going to be bad times, there's going to be stressful times. And, I think that people have a tendency sometimes to lash out in situations that get a little tense, and to be patient and be humble, like you said, and just rely on the Lord and put things at his feet and not, try to hash it out between the two of you. So there's some things that you need to talk about, some things you need to go to the Lord about, and that doesn't always have to be communicated between the two of you. So
Sure.
Some things you need to handle on your own, some things you need to handle as a couple.
Sure.
And I think the other thing I would add is just doing time blocking so
Yeah.
that when work is done, because otherwise it bleeds into date night, dinner,
Right.
evening, nighttime, first thing you wake up in
Right.
the morning, and your kids are like, all you guys do is work. And we're like, not
Yeah.
really. I mean, oh yeah.
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 So I
Yeah.
think, time blocking that time where this is family time and no work
Yeah.
and no anything. You can't be so desperate for a sale or a client in the beginning that you forego, the things that really matter.
Yeah.
No, I love that, because as someone who's very driven, I have at times not been present enough with my family. And so I'm glad you're speaking to that, because it's so much more valuable, if you will. You're so much more wealthy, if you will, if you're present with your family than just trying to get that final expense sale or that Medicare sale, you know. So I'm glad that you guys brought it up. I hear you talk a lot about your faith and God. Obviously, you guys know I'm very passionate about my faith, and I had the Starks on several weeks ago where we interviewed them, and we just talked about how there's just so much pressure to dilute that, right? And I just feel like I can't, because I don't feel like I would truly be who I am, right? That is my identity, and finding out whose I am, right? And so talk about how important that is to you guys in your business. But also, you said something a few seconds ago, or a few minutes ago, about how does somebody kind of rededicate that or submit that business over to God? Because wouldn't you agree that's a really tough thing, especially for very driven people to say, hey, God, I don't mind you having the keys over here, but now I got to give you the keys to my business. Can you guys talk about that just a little bit?
Yeah.
Yeah, sure.
Yeah, go ahead.
Okay. So, you know, I guess for us, we don't want to dilute any of that. And you know, sometimes there's talk of like, well, business should be over here, and, you know, religion or your faith over here. But when it's just so much a part of you, it's just naturally blends together. And I feel like when you really own that and know, and that's just so integral in your life, you just speak like that, and it'll draw people to you. And maybe some people, you know, move away from that, but we want our business really to be our mission, you know, to from how we operate, how we treat people, all those things, so that they're like, what's different about them, you know, from the agents, from clients, from, you know, different things like that, is one thing I guess I would say. Yeah.
Our team likes to joke that you have to like tacos and be a believer to be on our team. And part of that is true, part of it's not true, but you know, it turns out that the agents that stay and are most faithful to our team, they like tacos and they are faithful to the Lord. And so and you know, this is, we don't puke this all over our team. We just, like you said, I live it out the way I live it out, and people soak it in or they don't, and we attract like people. And I think that's kind of how, you know, our team has kind of evolved.
We pray together, you know, our team is tight. We pray together, we serve in the community together. We now have, I don't know, for the last couple of months, we have a pastor that joins on he's not on our team, but he's on our team calls, and he you know, gives us a little motivation based out of the word, and sends us on our way for the week. And it's really cool.
We've done some random acts of kindness together, where we'll go to like back to school, you know, at Target or Walmart or wherever, and they've got all the school supplies out, and we'll just go buy a bunch of gift cards, and the team will pray about it. And then we just go find people who, you know, the Lord leads us to, that maybe needs a little help. And then we go out and just, you know, bless them, and no shirts with logos, no signs, nothing. We just go out and do it, and we're in, we're out, and no one knows who we are.
Sure. No, I love that. And listen, if you're watching today, just be you, right? Be the most authentic version of yourself. That's what I tell people all the time. I can't stop talking about my faith. It's because it's who I am, right? I've been forgiven of so much that I can't help but talk about it and live it. And listen, I believe some of you watching today are not finding the fulfillment you need to find in this life because you're sacrificing who God called you to be to please everyone else. This is what Steve and Amy are talking about. Be you, right? Be you. And listen, it's okay if you're not everyone's flavor. I'm not everyone's flavor. I'm loud, I'm passionate, I'm energetic. I talk about God a lot. Okay. By the way, I do like tacos and love pizza. I'll definitely come to Kansas City and hang out. But here's the thing. That's okay, because there's plenty of people that do. Right. And so I love that. And I believe that keeps people back so much, Steve and Amy, in every space, not only in our space, but in every space. Let me talk about this real quickly, because this is a leadership podcast. Amy, is there a leadership principle, trait, habit that you've learned throughout this life journey that you've cultivated in your own life and that you live from, but also you lead others from as well?
Mhm. I would say one of the biggest things is just being vulnerable and transparent. The world lives in this like highlight reel stuff on social media.
Yeah.
You know, my mom was a wonderful woman of faith, but she kept a lot of things in the closet until the closet was so stuffed she couldn't hardly keep the door shut, you know.
Mm.
And I was always a little amazed or confused with that, where if you would just be vulnerable and real and show people that you too struggle and you too have worked through this and God has brought you, you know, through that. So for me, I'm not here to like promote my book. I just want, I don't know,
Oh, please.
that way, the fire within you. So I felt the Lord talking to me for a few years about, you need to share your story, you need to share your story. And then Satan's over here going, yeah, but you don't have all your stuff together and you're not all perfect. And who are you?
Sure. Yeah.
But when I went to 8% a couple of years ago, I ate fire on stage, and that gave me like this power, like, okay, if I can say yes to eating fire and I can do this, I'm saying yes to you, Lord, and I'm going to do what you've asked me, and I'm going to be vulnerable and I'm going to be transparent. Even though the judgment is probably going to flood my way, I don't care, because the end goal, if this helps one person, then it's worth it. And there's some things in my story that weren't my fault, and there were other things that I made terrible decisions and had, you know, but the whole reason behind it is not about Amy. It's about trying to minister to someone who's, you know, been through this or been through grief, or has a parent who's denied, you know, you, or whatever it is, and to know that you can embrace those things. You can let the Lord work through you in those specific things to really be a fire and a flame for people who need someone like that to go, man, I've been through that too. And I just didn't think that there was a way for me to get out and live a life of abundance and to really be a light for the world instead of over here in the corner, you know, fussing about it. So
Yeah. And can we get that on Amazon? Is that pretty much anywhere?
yeah. It's
When this drops in a few weeks, we'll put that in the description. I definitely would love to read it. And I love what you're saying, Amy, is I think a lot of people, and maybe you're watching today and you need to hear this message. You're letting the mess of yesterday keep you from the mission that God has for you today.
Yeah.
And I promise you, he has more mercy than you have mess.
Oh, yeah.
I'm a living testimony that
Yeah.
my story is very messy as well. And one day you're inspiring me to go write a book, because I've been putting it off for years. And maybe the Lord's using you to speak to me to go, hey, make it happen. And by the way, don't go eat fire today. That's not what Amy's saying. This was in a controlled environment. Don't go
Exactly.
eat fire.
Don't try this at home.
But maybe God is putting a fire underneath you today.
Yeah.
And Amy is speaking to you. You know who you are. You're watching this today. And it's time to take massive and perfect action towards that God-sized dream that he's put in your heart. So I'll definitely will put that link in the description when this drops. Steve, what about you? Is there a leadership principle that you go, you know, this one's the cream of the crop for me. It's something that I've cultivated in my life. It's something that I live from, but also lead others from?
Yeah, I think the leadership principle that comes to, you know, or at least the term or word that comes to mind is integrity. That you can find all levels of integrity and below in our industry or in any industry or any job. And I think when you're leading a team, you're leading a family, you have to lead it from the front and from the top, and you have to have integrity when you go through those things. So, or when you're making decisions and you're leading people, you know, and you have to be willing to do things that you're asking other people to do. You either have to have done them or you need to be doing them and show them that you can do that. So when it comes to leadership, it's definitely, you have to be honest and upfront. You have to tell people exactly how things are going to work, and don't embellish it. It's you know, it's not glamorous, but it can be rewarding. It is this, it's maybe not that. and just be upfront. So.
Yeah, and I think we can all say this, or many people can say this, especially in our industry, is that integrity is lacking big time, right? And I won't chase that rabbit and get on that soapbox, but I think a lot of times people are scared to be vulnerable again with someone and trust someone. But as you guys well know, and you know, I was very fortunate to find that integrity and honesty in our upline, and it was refreshing. The transparency and just willing to show everything. And so maybe you're watching today and maybe you've been burned. Maybe you've been hurt. Can we just speak to you today and say, try again?
Yeah.
Right. Don't waste your whole life focusing on that hurt or whatever. There's people out there with integrity and honesty. Maybe you're the leader who blew it and you've hurt some folks. I've been there too. I've really blown it in my life many, many times. And can I just tell you something once again? The grace of God allows you to fail forward, right? And so I just thank you so much for sharing those things. Real quickly as well, I always like to ask people this: what is one word that you would use to describe yourself? So let's start with Amy. What is one word, Amy, that you would use to describe yourself?
I would say determined.
Okay, so let me part B to that question is, how is being determined or determination played a key role in the success that you've had today?
I would say just being determined and persevering, you know, that no matter what, I'm not stopping. I might have a obstacle to go around or over, under, through, but you know, when that comes, it is like, okay, Lord, what are you teaching me? What are you telling me? I thought it was this way, and if it's that way, I'm totally fine. I just want to know the way, the next step to take, so that I can be on the right track and keep going. You know, I think it's easy when you're going through a lot of stuff. You know, I used to say, well, I get knocked down, I jump back up. I get knocked down, I jump back up. And after a while, I'm like, gee whiz, I can't even get myself standing up, let alone fighting, you know, back into the game of life. But you know, it was really just getting back in the word and back with the Lord. And here we go, you know, so it is, I think it's that determination and perseverance to keep going no matter what, that has got me where we are today. Sure.
What about you, Steve? What is one word that you would use to describe yourself?
It's interesting that Amy and I are very similar in a lot of things. And I kind of find myself in the same light where I just won't quit. And especially if I get pushed into a corner, you know, if I get backed into a corner, or somebody tells you that you're not good at it or you can't do it or whatever, then I come out even harder. And so it's very similar to what Amy said.
Sure. And what's the biggest breakthrough you've had in regards to knowing God? Right. I think sometimes that's overlooked. What is one thing, maybe how your faith has impacted you over the years? Can you speak to that, both of you? Just maybe how your faith has caused you to be a better leader because of this, or a better husband because of this, or all the above. Amy, can we start with you? What is one major impact your faith has had on you?
I think, you know, growing up, I grew up in a religious home, right? More like with rules and just because the Bible says so, but not as much of a relationship with the Lord. So once and it's not that my parents didn't have a relationship, but it was very, very rule driven, you know? So for me, it was, you know, finding that relationship with the Lord and really just, man, you know, talking to him all the time. And that is what really made a shift for me in my life. And as a mom, as a wife, as a friend, as a leader, is really just staying close to the Lord and asking him. You know, the hardest thing for us salespeople or, you know, visionaries is to keep our mouth shut, you know, ask and then shut up so I can listen to what God's telling me. And that's when I'm able to stop and listen and receive. I mean, I'm like a whole new person, you know, coming out of the war room, if you want to say, you know. And so for me, that's it.
Yeah. For me, it's definitely staying in the word. The more I learn, the more knowledge I have. it's not surprising that good things happen, more often when you're on the right track and your mind is in the right place. So, staying in the Word, reading, and then having that relationship, praying, speaking. I'm not always a good listener, but
Yeah.
trying to pay attention after you're reading something's coming to your mind or your heart. That's, I found, I do a little fire pit night for guys in our neighborhood, and it's just a guys' night. Come over, a little fire pit in the backyard, and we do it the first Friday of every month. And leading up to those, I'm like, okay, what am I going to talk about? What am I going to say? What am I going to do? And so it's sometimes I have to slow down, and I just have to, just listen and pay attention to what's going on in my mind, things that maybe repeat several times over. And then I open up scripture and I'm like, okay, where does this word apply? Where does this phrase apply? And then it leads me down to several things. And then I the one that jumps out is the one I go with. And so just paying attention, I think, listening and paying attention.
Yeah, no, I definitely love that. Slowing down is a hard one for me because I'm a high energy guy, and definitely love the religion versus the relationship. And a lot of people it's a simple shift in that God is more interested in your heart than he is your behavior. But a lot of times in Western Christianity, we have the do good gospel, right? The do's and the don'ts gospel. Don't do this, don't do that. So I grew up in a very similar way, Amy, as well as, I thought God was always mad at me and he had this remote control up there and he was ready to zap me all the time. And it wasn't until I began to understand that I'm fully and loved and accepted by the Father through my relationship to his Son, it changed my whole life, right? And if you're watching today, it can change your whole life as well. So as we wrap up today, and you guys, you've been spitting some serious fire today, and I'm so thankful that you guys came on the podcast. Let's look at some advice, right? Maybe there's somebody out there, not just in the insurance business, but maybe they're wanting to bet on themselves, but they're in that rock and hard place, Amy, just like you were, and they're wanting to bet on themselves. What's some just advice that you would give them, maybe to just inspire them to say, hey, what better year to bet on yourself than 2022? Can you speak life into that real quickly?
Yeah, for sure. I guess I always just say, like, this is your life, your one and only life. Like, do not be like halfway living your life, halfway happy, halfway sad. I don't know, man. I mean, time just flies by. And I think because, with a lot of the experiences I've had of losing so many people, it's like, it is so fleeting. Like, don't waste another second. Step into that. If you're constantly feeling that, thinking that, like that gut instinct is the Holy Spirit telling you, talking to you. You need to listen to that. And if he's telling you and repeatedly, like, he's got you, he has a plan, and you just have to have the faith to go, all right, you're right, man. My life is just mediocre, and I know there's more for me. I know that there's that gut instinct. I'm going to say yes, even though I'm scared to death, but I'm literally going to lay it at his feet every single day. And you lead me, you guide me. When we were building the business, it was like, dude, we're supposed to produce more. Are we supposed to like bring more teams?
Right.
And I'm like, I don't know. So that was part of that conversation. It's like, all right, I don't even know. So you just show me. So just literally ask him to show you every single day, and just be willing to do the action, take the steps, and do the work to do your part. And he's going to meet you there, and you are going to be floored at what he has planned for you.
Now that's some good stuff. And Steve, maybe you can speak to someone today who's addicted to that salary, right? Nothing wrong with the salary if that's where God's called you to do that. But maybe they need to detox from that guarantee and begin to discover what it really means to live on purpose in such a way where they own their own business, right? They make that reversal of money and time. So speak life into someone today who's watching that's maybe right there, but they just need to hear some words from Steve.
Yeah. So when you're right there, people tend to fold, right? You're just about there, and they fold up and they quit. They're like, this isn't working out. They have a spouse in their ear, they have a friend or somebody else in their ear, that this is not for you, that, you're just not getting it done, you're not making it, it's not happening fast enough. And it's just not true. I mean, you can make a lot of money in this business, and you can make it fast or you can make it slow, but you can make it. And if you don't quit, you'll get there, and you'll be in places that you never thought you'd be. So we never thought we'd be where we're at today, and we, at 8% sitting there at the table, and we were asked to write down a number for our business. And Amy wrote down a number and I wrote down a number independently of each other. And then we shared it with each other, and it's the same number.
Wow.
So that's a big, scary number.
Yeah,
We're
it's a
like,
big, scary
what
number.
in the
Right.
world?
And so where we're at today, we never thought we'd be, and where this number is, I don't know how we're going to get there, but we're going to just not quit. We're going to keep going. And if that's the number that God told us to put down, then we put it there for a reason, and we're going to see what happens. So
yeah. No, I love that. And listen, if you're watching today, comfortable people don't live out the God-sized dreams, right? Desperate people who want to trust God with everything, see those God-sized dreams come to fruition. And so I love what you guys are saying. Listen, before I ask you where we can find you online, anything stirring in your spirit that before we wrap this podcast up today, you go, man, I just got to share this today before we wrap up?
I think for me, God's been asking me to do something for the industry that's like gonna make an eternal difference. And I think sometimes people are afraid, like, to walk into the Bible studies. And we, like I shared, we pray with our team, but I will do, even some individual prayer time, daily prayer calls with people going through stuff. And about a week and a half ago, God woke me up in the middle of the night and said, Kim told you how impactful this is for her, that Amy, the whole industry needs it. So I'm going to say yes again. I'm going to step in, and we're going to start a prayer call for the industry so people can come on anonymously and whatever. Nobody has to, they don't have to say anything. They don't have to say who they are, but we can pray together. We can pray over them. We can bring prayer requests. We can read a devotion, words out of the Bible, whatever. But, so initially I'm like, oh, but what about this? And okay. Just like Cody says, like, details delay. So I'm putting it out there that's going to be coming out in the next week or so. And it'll just be a safe place for people to come.
Yeah.
So that's what God's got stirring in me right now.
Anything stirring in you, Steve, before we get off today?
Yeah, I would just tell people to just step out and just do what God's calling you to do. And if you don't know what that is, then you need to listen. You need to pray about it. You need to listen, and you just need to step out and go. So if you're looking to get into this industry, or you're just about there and you're not sure if you can make it, you just gotta stick it out. You gotta keep going, because it's there. Follow a good mentor, follow a good leader, somebody like Rob that's going to mold you into this, somebody, a successful person that can go out and do what you're called to do. And if you find a mentor, you find somebody like that, then stick to them. If you don't have it, then go find another one, and just stick to it and make it happen.
Sure. No, I totally agree. And Amy, just to encourage you, God has been putting in my spirit, and I've talked about this on several podcasts, and this helps keep me accountable. But initially, I thought about starting a faith-based conference for insurance agents, but now that's graduated into just entrepreneurs, because I've had so many entrepreneurs who want something deeper than just like a worship experience combined with like entrepreneur, and actually learn stuff to grow their business. Would love for you guys to be part of that and hold me accountable to that. That's a God-sized dream He's put in my heart. And I've done events for 20 years, but nothing on that grand of a scale. And so I just would encourage you, to keep walking in that. And that encourages me, right? Like, see, people go, why do you do these podcasts? It's not just for all of you. It's for me. I learn from successful people like Steve and Amy, and it challenges me to go to a higher level. So real quickly, where can we find you guys online? You're on Facebook, Instagram, YouTube, TikTok?
We haven't quite branched into TikTok yet.
I
I'm on the
gotcha. I
viewing
gotcha.
side, but not on the doing side yet.
Yeah.
But Polaris Insurance Solutions, we are on Facebook, we're on the internet, we have a Instagram as well. So just haven't quite dabbled into the TikTok,
Yeah.
but we've got, our kids are now working in the business, and
Sure.
so they can help launch us into that cool
Yeah.
stuff.
Okay. I get it. And we'll definitely put all those links in the description when this drops in a few weeks. And so once again, thank you guys for coming on. I want to say this as we end today is I pray that something was said today puts fresh wind in your sails. That's the terminology I like to use, because how many of us know that life just takes the wind out of us sometimes? But here's the good news. If you're alive today, God is not done with you. He has a purpose for you. So you've had life spoken over you. You've had fire being, I don't even know what spat. I don't even know what the right word is to say there. But the bottom line is purpose has been spoken today. And I pray that something was said once again, deeply and divinely inspires you to go after the God-sized dream that I believe he's put in all of your hearts. As always, I want you to please like, comment, subscribe below, share this with someone who needs to hear this today. And I just want to say, God bless you guys. And listen, make it an awesome day. And we'll talk to you guys soon.